This is going to be a huge litmus test for the Mustangs because TCU is going to challenge SMU's weakest link.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We'll get to that here in just a second. Welcome to Locked On SMU, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. And our episode today is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if the bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the FanDuel app today. Coming up on the show today, SMU is set to get some dudes back. So will the Mustangs throw out a better effort than they did a week ago? We'll talk about that. Plus, we've talked about four-star quarterback in the 2027 class, Malachi Ziegler's recruitment, as he has been an SMU lead now for a couple of weeks now. But things have gotten a little bit complicated with him. We'll find out what that is when we close up shop. But let me go ahead and start with the matchup. It's Wednesday now, so let's start talking about this game. TCU and SMU, the last scheduled running of the Iron Skillet. And TCU is going to challenge SMU's weakest link. And the weakest link for SMU, if you watch throughout the first 3 games of the season, has been the secondary, particularly cornerback. And if you've watched TCU or kept up with the Horned Frogs or just, peeked in and seen what they do, they throw the ball around and they do it very well, and they've got an array of weapons with which to get the ball to. They can run the ball, though. They can run it with Kavorian Barnes, but Kavorian Barnes, by the way, this came out on Tuesday afternoon. He is questionable with a lower leg injury, so we'll see whether or not he's able to go. But sure, they would like to do that. He ran for over 100 in the season opener against North Carolina, but they want to throw the football with Josh Hoover, who has started out the season pretty good. Threw a pick against North Carolina, played a clean game against Abilene Christian. But they want to throw it. They want to throw it to Joseph Manjack, who comes over from Houston. They want to throw it to Jordan Dwyer, who spent 3 years at Idaho before coming over to TCU. They want to throw it to Eric McAllister, the former Boise State guy. He's in his second year in the program, and it was just a shade under 800 yards last year, averaged 19.5 yards per catch in his first year with TCU. So, they've got 3 really good wide receivers. Manjack's a good wide receiver, really good chain mover, good route runner, never drops a pass despite playing without gloves. You guys remember that dude from Houston. They've got the offensive line to protect Josh Hoover, and Josh Hoover can sling it. So, they want to throw the football, and so far, SMU's biggest downfall has been they can't cover people. And we talked about this with the Baylor game with Ashton Hawkins and, Josh Cameron and the rest of the Baylor targets, Kobe Prentice, Michael Trigg, those guys. Well, TCU has something comparable to that with their wide receivers. Now, do I think Josh Hoover is as good of a quarterback and as good of a thrower of a football as Sawyer Robertson is? No, but he's still damn good. And the secondary has been reshuffled, I think, in preparation for this right here. I think in preparation for making sure we don't get bombed by another big-armed quarterback. Deuce Harmon's going to be on one side. It seems as if Ahmad Moses is going to stay there in the nickel. Jaden Milner-Jones back there at corner. And then whatever we get, probably Jalen Davis-Robertson on the opposite corner. And you got your introduction to your new roles last week against Missouri State. Now comes another challenge against some more big boys. Right. And everybody's got to elevate their level of play. Everybody's got to. Davis Robertson, not slated to be a starter at first. Now he is. Got to elevate your level of play. Deuce Harmon, who is probably in the corner room, the best carryover from last year, got to elevate your level of play. Even Ahmad Moses has to play better. Even the safeties, and that includes Isaiah Wokobia, got to play better. Got to elevate your level of play going up against these guys. But also, with the way that TCU wants to attack, I'm also looking at a dude like Scott Simons at D coordinator. will you be as hesitant to bring pressure against a dude like Josh Hoover, like you were against Sawyer Robertson? Here is the difference between Hoover and Robertson, I think. I think Hoover is a better runner of the football. And I'm going to go back and look at his numbers from a year ago. Okay, you know what? Not something he does very often. But he is a mobile dude. He is a mobile guy. And you cannot be hesitant to bring pressure on him. Because I will repeat what I said 2 weeks ago. If you allow him to sit back and be comfortable and have all the time he needs to find a target and comfortably deliver the ball to said target, he will pick you apart. That usually will pick apart any secondary, no matter how good of a corner safety room that you have. You don't get pressure, you give them all the time in the world, the receivers will eventually uncover. So, with a guy who has some mobility but doesn't run it a whole heck of a lot, and when he does, doesn't really do it that well, gotta bring pressure. Unless you're getting pressure with 4. If you're getting pressure with 4 and can drop 7, excellent. That's excellent. But if it comes time when you need to heat him up, Scott Simons cannot be reluctant to heat up Josh Hoover. You got to help your corners out because a good pass rush and pressure on the quarterback will always help your corners. And I just think that it's coaching malpractice for you to know that, hey, their biggest strength is getting the ball to these electric receivers, and our biggest weakness is our corners, and we're not going to help them out. I think that's coaching malpractice. So I'm looking for Scott Simons to right his wrongs as well from the Baylor game and heat up Josh Hoover. But ultimately, especially with the question mark that is the TCU running back, if you can take away this pass game or at least make it not efficient, SMU's in a really good position to win this game. Because there is a very clear, and I do feel comfortable when there are very clear strength versus weakness and a very clear way to improve it. Obviously, SMU has done the more complicated way to improve it by reshuffling the secondary and rearranging everything. But the more simpler way to do it is help him out by making sure the quarterback is moved off his spot and feels you and is a little bit uncomfortable, which pressure with 4 has been something that SMU has done pretty well. So SMU they have a clear way to mitigate what they don't do well, but you got to go out and do it. And your D coordinator has to be able to do that himself too. Also worth noting too, they did get takeaways. They got 3 interceptions last week. So this defensive backfield is playing with some confidence. And if there's nothing else to say about games against far inferior opponents, if you can do a lot of things right and string together a lot of good stuff, that builds confidence because you've seen yourself do it. So this defense got takeaways. They got 3 interceptions off of the Missouri State quarterback, Clark. So now you're in the mindset of, okay, let's do it again. We know how we did it. Let's up our level of play just a little bit and go do it again. These receivers aren't world beaters, but they're good. They are good. So SMU's going to have to make sure that they cover people and heat up the quarterback. That is your roadmap to making this TCU offense a little bit disjointed and hopefully sputter out in Fort Worth and get you a road win and get you back on a really good right track heading into conference play. Coming up next, speaking of getting back on a right track, they are getting guys back. SMU's injury report looks pretty good at the top for the time being. We'll talk about that next on Locked On SMU. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. And Mazda brings the same intention in how we craft every model. And you can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through every single season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. We're also brought to you today by DoorDash, and it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered the most. Hey, let's go ahead and talk about it and break it down. One of the turning points from SMU's win over Missouri State a week ago was the TJ Harden touchdown, who has delivered and is now clearly the number one back on this SMU team, and the coaching staff has rewarded him by riding the hot hand. When the pressure was on, he's continued to come through. And if you've been watching week after week, you know that performance should be a sign of good things to come. And just like TJ Harden has delivered for SMU, DoorDash delivers on your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday, keep the streak alive, fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply, and the promo period runs through November the 18th. Back here on Locked On SMU, hey, real quick, on Thursday's episode, we will be joined by Darian Gray, the new host of Locked On TCU. So we're going to do a little crosstalk with him as we get closer to the matchup. He's formerly of Locked On HBCU. If you've ever tapped in with him there, he's going to be our guest on tomorrow's episode. By the way, I'm Grayson Singleton. You can follow me on Twitter at Gray_Singleton2, and be sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Okay, the injury report is looking pretty promising for SMU this week heading into the TCU game. And we're going to start with probably one that is going to generate a ton of excitement. And that is that Alex Kilgore and Zakye Barker are expected to play on Saturday. Injury report comes from the Dallas News, Leah Asimakopoulos. Hopefully I pronounced that right, probably butchered it. But Alex Kilgore and Zakye Barker are expected to play. Now, here's the interesting one. Jordan Hudson practiced for the first time since his injury and, quote, according to her, could be available. Now, I'm going to stay away from wagering whether or not Jordan Hudson plays in this game, but I do think he would be a big boost. And I'm especially excited to see, I'm really excited to see what he looks like on the field with Jalen Cooper. Because Cooper has slid into Jordan Hudson's role admirably well. I want to see if once Hudson gets back on, how many snaps they take away from Jordan Hudson. Because if there's anything to say about Jordan Hudson, if they take any snaps away from Jalen Cooper. Because if there's anything to say about Jalen Cooper, it's that he has certainly worked himself into the trust, not just of the coaching staff, but the quarterback as well. And he deserves to get some run in big-time games. And I think this qualifies as a big-time game, Big 12 opponent. It's the Iron Skillet. It's on the road. He deserves and has earned that run. Now, that said, he is the backup to Jordan Hudson on the depth chart. And I don't think he's been listed anywhere else on the depth chart either. So Jalen Cooper's snaps will probably see a little bit of a dip. But I do think the return of Jordan Hudson can add some flexibility to the SMU offense. Because if you want to take RJ Maryland off the field, and instead of having essentially a 12 personnel, you could throw Cooper in there, and now we've got Brinson, Cooper, Hudson, and Matthew Hibner. Or you can sub Hibner for Maryland. I think it adds an extra dimension of speed to your offense. Or you could continue to go with the 12 personnel. I'm going to call it 12 just because RJ Maryland is still the size of a tight end. But even though he is listed as a wide receiver now, you could use that to allow yourself to work Hudson back in more. Now, do I ultimately think Jordan Hudson will play a significant amount in this game? Given that he was in a sling 2 weeks ago, I would venture to say no. That's my prediction. I haven't talked to anybody about that. That is just my prediction based on what I think. But I do think if you could get him some run before conference play and Jalen Cooper still perform well, you're in a good spot heading into next week against Syracuse. But flipping things back over to the defensive side, where I think both Barker and Kilgore were sorely missed. I mean, these dudes were missed because I think they settle things in terms of the coverage, and I think just play a little bit more under control than the linebackers that were in their stead played. And that's okay. Those dudes were aggressive down, the Medlocks of the world, my Zanos of the world. They were aggressive downhill, played well against the run. But against the pass, they didn't really play well, and SMU still had problems defending the middle of the field. Now, I do think having your normal linebackers in there mitigate that a lot. So that also in conjunction with the fact that those are your signal callers. You know, Kilgore's been in the program for a while. Barker, highly intelligent football player, leader. Those dudes being back certainly gives your defense a lot more of a feeling of familiarity. And a little bit more cohesion as well. And I also think, by the way, the fact that they're back amidst the realignment of the secondary, Ahmad Moses moving down to nickel, Milner Jones moving back to free safety, I do think that has a more calming effect. And, you know, you got to be able to communicate to everybody where you're supposed to be, and there's no telling who could be out of position when you're in your second week of realigning things like that. So from a leadership perspective, Kilgore and Barker being back excites me a lot. Outside of the fact that I just didn't mention that they're the linebacker ones. They're the ones, they're going to be back. And when you're going up against, you know, good competition, you want your horses. So that's some really good news on the injury front. But, you know, Jordan Hudson, getting back to the Jordan Hudson point, this was around the timeline that I thought he would return. Again, I don't think he plays substantially much, and I thought he was going to be out through the rest of the non-conference play. So we're right around that timeline. If he's a week early, great. But even if he doesn't play, I'm still okay because Jalen Cooper and Kevin Jennings have something there. Kevin Jennings clearly is comfortable with Jalen Cooper, and you know you still have your burner on the opposite side, and Romello Brinson. So I think SMU's offense is okay. They're okay if he doesn't play. They get a big boost if he does. They get a morale boost, I think, if he does, because people like that dude. People like that dude. Jordan Hudson likes this team. And it would be great to see him back out there. But if that doesn't end up being the case, not all is lost. Get him back next week, and I think you'll be okay. And you're still in position to where you can go get a road win. But the defense is the one I think that with that news got a huge boost. Got a huge boost because you got your dudes back. You got your signal callers back. That's a huge catalyst for what this defense can do in terms of improving. And remember, they lost Kilgore pretty quickly in the East Texas A&M game. So getting him back, I think, boy, you could have used him against Baylor, but getting him back for this week is going to be excellent. Coming up next, one more segment to go, the Malachi Ziegler recruitment. 4-star quarterback from Benton, Louisiana, has a new twist to it, and it comes in the form of, well, you'll see next. Keep it here, Locked On SMU. We're brought to you today by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or what they're even worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a single spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought, and Monarch can help you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from your past jobs. Just one of the things that Monarch can surprise you with. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at Monarch Money with code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Final segment here. Let's close up shop on Locked On SMU, talking some recruiting, because recruiting is always an ongoing thing. So, Ty Hawkins commits in the 2025 class. He is now on board. Cole Liner in the 2026 class is verbally committed. The 2027 class, for the past month or so, has started to feel like Rhett Lashley, Casey Woods, and De'Aaron King's quarterback is going to be four-star Benton, Louisiana native Malachi Ziegler. And if you haven't watched Malachi Ziegler's tape, I actually talked to somebody about this today. He has cleaned up a lot. And my comp for him was Anthony Richardson. Big dude, big arm. He's now over 200 pounds now at 6'3", in his junior year. But fundamentally had some stuff to be cleaned up. Well, I talked to somebody today. It seems like that's gotten cleaned up and he's looking even better. I'm going to review his tape again at some point over the weekend. But there is now a new twist, because while he has been considered an SMU lean for a while, Oklahoma could be getting into the picture here. Now, emphasis on the word could, because he does not have an Oklahoma offer at this particular moment in time. But he has been to Norman before. There are relationships with the people in Norman who could, sway this in the Sooners' direction. Now, how did this all come about? If you follow recruiting, you would have seen that in the 2027 class, Oklahoma was expected to land four-star quarterback from the Shreveport area, Peyton Houston. Evangel Christian is where he goes. It was expected that it was Oklahoma for the longest time. There was some USC buzz a couple of months ago, never really came to fruition, and it was expected then to be Oklahoma. Well, on Monday, Peyton Houston announced that he is committing to none other than the home state LSU Tigers. Now, that makes things interesting. Not exactly for SMU yet, but what it does do is put Oklahoma in a situation where they have to pivot in the 2027 class, and one of the people on the list that they could pivot to is Malachi Ziegler. That is how we get here. Now, SMU has gone head-to-head with the University of Oklahoma for several recruits in the 2026 cycle. We talked about this a few months ago, but four-star interior offensive lineman Drew Evers got him over Oklahoma and Ohio State and Penn State. Ryan Gilbert, three-star corner from North Forney, I believe, got him over Oklahoma. Aldra Miles, wide receiver from Kaufman, Texas, four-star wide receiver, got him over Oklahoma. Papunga Toa Katoa, the tackle in the 2026 class, got him over Oklahoma as well. You are basically 4-0, I believe, going head-to-head with Oklahoma in the 2026 class, unless I'm forgetting somebody. But, so you've had recent success against Oklahoma on the recruiting front. Now, here's what remains to be seen. Peyton Houston was the only quarterback that Oklahoma was going after in the 2027 class. Now, does Oklahoma put that sort of an effort into Malachi Ziegler that could possibly sway him? Maybe they could. Also, the new GM of Oklahoma's football team is none other than Senior Bowl director, or former Senior Bowl director, Jim Nagy. He has said he will pay big money for a quarterback. So if you're SMU here, even though this won't be a problem for the Mustangs unless they choose not to, you might get in a bidding war for this guy. And look, even though you're 4-0 against Oklahoma, recently in terms of being in the national championship picture, SMU has been more relevant than the Sooners, especially under their current coaching staffs, Rhett Lashley and Brent Venables. But losing that game against Baylor may have some sort of a residual effect. especially when you include that if Oklahoma's able to get Malachi Ziegler back up to Norman, their now remaining home games are against Auburn. They'll play LSU at home. They'll play Ole Miss at home. So those are just right off the dome. There's one more SEC game that they get at home that's slipping my mind right now. Mizzou. So they've got matchups, and it won't be Auburn because Auburn is this coming weekend for Oklahoma. But there are matchups that will look rather intriguing that if Oklahoma's able to put on a good performance, Malachi Ziegler could be like, okay. But I think to me, if you're SMU, I don't think you sweat this right now. I don't think this is one where you say, yeah, we don't know. Have Kevin Jennings keep putting on good showings. De'Aaron King's relationship with this dude is solid. And Rhett Lashley and Casey Woods, in conjunction with one another, keep building upon the offense's good stuff that they've shown. And the offense has shown good things in every single game up to this point. They have shown good things at spurts through every part of the game. Remember, the Baylor loss wasn't because the offense stopped scoring. The Baylor loss is because they left 9 points on the board in field goals. So, in that regard, you're still kind of okay. Your offense has looked good. But you got to keep displaying that for a guy like Malachi Ziegler. And also, by the way, if you maintain that relationship and you're showing you're developing receivers, keep this in mind. You've got young receivers that Ziegler could look at and be like, I could play with them. They might be in their junior year by the time I get there, but I could still play with Jalen Cooper and Carterius Brown. Isaiah Robertson's on the shelf now, but I mean, you've got Grayson Singleton, who hopefully will develop as well. So you've got the pieces and the infrastructure and the financials around being able to close this one down. But to this point, the primary competition had been Baylor and Mississippi State. Oklahoma, though they haven't done it officially yet, because of the pivot that they have to make, because Peyton Houston committed to LSU, could make a pivot to a dude who I would have been very comfortable wagering ends up in SMU's 2027 class, Malachi Ziegler. Got to look out for the Sooners. All right, that'll do it for our episode of Locked On SMU today. Remember, subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter at Gray_Singleton2. And by the way, be on the lookout for this, because coming up tomorrow, another episode of College Football Kickoff, a collaboration between Locked On and Fire TV. Drake Toll hosts. He's from Locked On Big 12, alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. It's a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, and it's only on Fire TV. We will talk to you tomorrow alongside Darian Gray of Locked On TCU. Take it easy, everybody.